On a 3 count commentary, this is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today, we're going to talk about AEW Dynamite, January the 17th, 2023. We also got 2 notes, one on Jack Perry, the other on people making fun of old Deonna Purrazzo for being a heavyweight female. We're going to talk about both of those things. Then we're going to get into the show. We're going to do a rundown of the show for reference. So I know I don't want people to get too surprised. The Deonna Purrazzo section is going to be at the end, and it was actually meant to be a separate video, but I decided not to do it. And I got lazy. I got distracted with real world issues, so I didn't do it. But since I had recorded the audio already, I'm just going to tack it on the end of here. But we're going to start this thing with Jack Perry. So Battle in the Valley, a New Japan show, occurs on the same night TNA is trying to re-emerge as the number 2 wrestling company in the business. Collision is also that night. There's a lot of stuff happening on that particular night. And Jack Perry crawls out of whatever hole he was living in for the past, I don't know, what's it been, 6 months or something like that? He's very scraggly, and he attacks Shota Umino and rips up an AEW contract while he's in the ring, puts on an armband that says scapegoat, and it's instantly the internet is talking about this guy as if he's something important. Of course, everybody knows nobody's a fool. You just can't rip a contract up and it's null and void. That's not how these things work. It was clearly symbolic, but symbolic of what exactly? Symbolic of Jack Perry being frustrated with AEW and not wanting to be there anymore. Is, clearly he's probably still under contract, but maybe he doesn't want to be under contract. That's one of the things that I was thinking of when I saw that, and I saw clearly you just can't rip a contract and that's it. But is it perhaps his way of saying that he doesn't want to be there anymore because he's been sent home and because he's being blamed for everything? Maybe he doesn't want to work in AEW anymore. Who knows? It's not up to him. If he's called to go back, he's got to go back. But just saying, maybe that's why he ripped up the contract. Now, a lot of people think that this is Tony Khan's idea. Look, Tony Khan cannot be that dumb. I don't care how much you dislike Jack Perry, and I dislike Jack Perry quite a bit. But you don't take a guy who could have some intrigue on your show and then give him to another property and say, here, you get all the positive attention from this guy re-emerging for the first time in forever, especially on a same night that I'm running a live show. Battle in the Valley is occurring at the same time Collision is on. So, no, that makes no sense. It would be terrible business for Tony Khan to allow Jack Perry to make his first appearance on a New Japan show that's on at the same time as his live show. Now, I'm not saying that Jack Perry is some huge star. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is everybody knows that when you have a guy off TV that long and you're going to do something like he's going to tear up a contract and put on, the scapegoat and not say too much of anything, that's something you do on your television. You get people talking, because that will get people talking. And it did. It got a lot of people talking. Why shouldn't they be talking about, hey, Jack Perry showed up on Collision and ripped his contract and put on a scapegoat tag and walked out and all this kind of stuff? Man, what are they up to? What are they possibly going to do? They could be talking about your show like that. Instead, they're talking about New Japan's show. So I don't think this is a Tony Khan idea. I think this is a Jack Perry shooting from the hip, kind of, in New Japan. He's been gone for so long at this point that, and plus I think the audience being a little bit different, an AEW audience would have ate this kid alive. And maybe that's what you want. You want to energize that audience. It's one of those things where, and I think Vince had this issue with the Brett Screw Brett situation, where you could run from it and try to hide it, or you could lean into it and try to use it. And I think even when Vince had his situation with, the NDAs or whatever, he put himself on television Not just to see that the people still loved him, but to let it, if people had a problem, let's get it out. Go out there, do your thing, get people talking about your product, even if they hate you. That's probably one of the better ways to do it, because you're running a television show. It's live. Your wrestling fans, as much as they may hate a person or hate a thing, there's still a certain element of what are they going to do with this guy? That curiosity. Jericho is another one right now where people are kind of like, how are they going to use Jericho on this show? Is Jericho going to show up in front of the live crowd? Is they going to play his music throughout his program all over again? Are they editing the boos and the yays or whatever that Jericho's getting? How are they going to use him? That curiosity, it keeps people watching, And if you'd brought Jack Perry back on your show, even to do the same thing he had just done, people would have paid more attention, I think. Okay, so let's get into this show. Oh my God, there was so much of nothing, so much stuff I didn't care about, so much stuff I didn't really need to see. And then there was Christian Cage versus Dustin Rhodes. The only problem with this match is the length of it. This ate up the first 20 minutes of the show. By God, this match did not need to be that long. Both of these guys are 50. They could have had a match just as solid in half the time. You could have cut out a good 40% of the time, and the match still would have been fine. Oh my God. Dustin Rhodes is out here doing superplexes into the crossroads. It's crazy. He's kicking out of Christian's finish. Come on, my guy. This match felt like it was going to go on forever. I was very disappointed that they gave these guys so much time. I like both guys. It's not an issue of, do I have a problem with either one of them? I do not. I always have problems with long matches. Always. Renee Paquette, boy, she really earns her paycheck. She's all over this show. All over this show. She's talking to Swerve. And Swerve comes out there and he's wearing eye makeup. It was striking. I thought he had like Graves' disease or something like that. I thought he had 2 black eyes. I thought he was cosplaying a Sly Cooper. I'm like, why is he wearing makeup? He's talking about being focused on being the world champion, and he's on everybody's mind, despite the fact that he didn't win the Continental Classic. And he said he saw Hangman beat all these people, do all these great things, and think that Hangman would have a good opportunity of beating God even, but still can't beat him. Okay, whatever. This is not what I think people want to see from Swerve. It got him on the show, but people want to see upward mobility. Speaking of the man, Chris Jericho, he was on this show talking about Don Callis ripping the tag team championships away from him. Don Callis causing an injury to Sammy Guevara. And he's frustrated. He's going to seek and destroy Konosuke Takeshita. And then out of nowhere, some guy who I thought was Ryan Namath. And I was like, why is this guy on this screen? And then my vision is so bad. And it wasn't until Jericho made that terrible "You're born to do this." I was like, is that Evan Bourne? I couldn't even remember what his real name was. My brother had to be like, it's Matt Sydal. Like, oh, Matt Sydal. He still works there, huh? Well, then again, he used to be a Ring of Honor guy, so of course he's still there. And apparently they're going to wrestle on Rampage. Come on, man, get the hell out of here. The crowd reacted positively towards Jericho, but the past couple of weeks, people have been saying that the crowds have been fake for Jericho. I did watch the street fight on Battle of the Belts, Sammy Guevara and Jericho versus Big Bill and Ricky Starks. I did watch that. I watched that match at least. It was a classic Attitude Era street fight. That's exactly what I said that Nakamura and Cody Rhodes from Raw a couple of weeks ago should have been. They were outside. They were, in the, not in the production area, but like in the, in the area with all the trucks and everything. They were in the innermost part of the building. It was fun from that perspective. They did the old golf cart gag again. It was fun. Jericho was his what did What did Dave Chappelle say about Kobe? He trying to beat that rape case on the court. That's what Jericho's trying to do. He's trying to beat this sexual harassment shit in the ring. He's going to go out there and put on some of the best performances he can do in the hope of everybody just like, oh, I like Chris. Forget it. It ain't going to work on this group of people, Chris Jericho. I can promise you that. Trent Beretta and Orange Cassidy defeated Commander and Penta El Zero Miedo. I didn't want to see this. Roderick Strong came out in his ridiculous mustache and cut a awful promo. He wants Orange Cassidy to take off his glasses. Orange Cassidy refused. He then tried to snatch his glasses off. Orange Cassidy backed up and swatted his hand away. And then Roderick Strong decided, well, I'm just going to cut this promo anyway, even though I said I was going to look you eye to eye, face to face to do it. Strong says that why would Orange Cassidy not defend his title tonight? Is he afraid? Does he not have enough in the tank to defend the title? Or do you know that it belongs to me? And it does belong to me. And I'm like, oh boy. And then Orange Cassidy accepted the challenge because of course he would. And then Roderick Strong, as you do as a heel, said, nope, I want to give you 6 weeks to think about it. We'll meet each other at Revolution. So finally some momentum being moved on this storyline. But my goodness, Roderick Strong is not a good promo. He's especially not a serious one. He was funny when they were doing the funny stuff. But as a, trying to be serious, tough guy promo, I'm not buying it. Just not buying it. I don't know if the crowd is into this. They popped at the theme song for the Undisputed Kingdom. They popped for that theme song, but I don't think people were interested in this promo. They did start chanting, shut the fuck up. They... Man, it is what it is, man. So then we get Hangman Page and Renee. And Hangman Page also has a ridiculous mustache. And, of course, everybody's comparing him to Magnum TA or Tom Selleck. But he ain't got enough masculinity to be in the same conversation with Tom Selleck and Magnum TA. His mustache looks fake. This mustache on Hangman Page, it was so distracting that I did not hear anything that he said in this promo. This might have been the one time where I was actually looking literally at the screen and watching that itchy gadget on his face. I'm like, what is that? Why is that? And I missed his entire promo. All I know is he says he's going to be watching the main event and he doesn't think about Swerve. That's it. I don't think he said anything else of note anyway. But that thing on his face, why? Why is everybody growing a mustache at the same time? Why does everybody insist that, okay, now we're going to do the 70s porno thing where everybody's going to have a mustache now? So you mean tell me Roderick Strong, the Young Bucks, and Hangman Page all decided independently of each other to grow ridiculous mustaches all at the same time? Come on, dog. Come on, dog. Somebody think this is a gag. Somebody thinks this is a joke. Anyway, we got an actual good segment with Mark Briscoe. He comes out, talks about losing his brother 1 year ago today. But he says that everybody forgets that his nieces were in the car. And when it crashed, people thought his nieces would never walk again. And then she walks out there with her sister. It was a great moment. They did a tribute video for Jay. Lovely moment. Tremendous. Really good stuff. Then we get Nicholas and Matthew Jackson in what was one of the worst wrestling promos in the business, and it just keeps up more drama. It literally did not add anything. For starters, let's go through it and then I'll get back to it. So Nicholas and Matthew Jackson, who are wearing solid colors, one all white, the other all black, again, spy versus spy. They got ridiculous thin mustaches, and then they claim that they're taking their jobs as EVPs more serious. When they start talking about rumors, which is Renee wants to ask them about rumors, they basically call them fake news and says that hypothetically, what would you do to protect your life's work? Would you be willing to lose? Your reputation, friendships, yada, yada, yada. And then he says, hypothetically, I would do it all again. Then he starts talking about, let's break it down. Let's stop right here. I don't know how many times we have to hear about the Young Bucks creating AEW. I get it. It's a good heat thing because you keep throwing it up in people's faces. And it does get a lot of heat, but it does also get kind of boring. Also, it's so late to talk about these quote unquote rumors. You should have done this months ago. When they were brought back after their suspension, they should have gone through and did all this. That's when they should have said, all of the rumors that you're hearing is not true. But if they were true, these would be the actions of people who are trying to protect their life's work, blah, 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 blah. They would have got tons of heat for it. Again, leaning into the heat. You could either try to run from it or you could lean into it. These guys, now they're leaning into it, but now the crowds are so goddamn sparse, nobody cares anymore. Nobody gives a shit. So after they basically said that we could do whatever we want because we're the EVPs, they give us a little history lesson about the tagline of AEW being change the world, and they believe that they did. That the idea behind AEW was out with the old, in with the new. And then he says that we changed the perception of wrestling, or actually he said that the perception of the locker room has changed. In that quote, we leaned on yesterday's self-serving, superficial superstars. And he even made a line about cancers in the locker room, which of course we all know is a reference to CM Punk. They tried to tie that into Sting by saying Sting isn't in line with what they wanted for AEW. So now it's time to say goodbye to Sting and to everyone else like him. So basically all the old farts are not what they envisioned for AEW. Now this is actually good character stuff. That's why I wanted to separate the two. The element of AEW was about young renegades out trying to change the business, being counterculture, being against tradition. And then you have a guy like Sting who, typifies tradition for the most part. Sting's been around for 30 years, 40 almost. So you're in an interesting case here where the Young Bucks can say that, we didn't believe this was going to be the place for Sting. This is not the place for a guy like Sting. We didn't build this for Sting. If Sting's got to go. The problem that I have with this is that Sting's already announced that he's retiring. So Sting's taking himself out. It's not like the Young Bucks are going to, scheme to eliminate Sting from AEW and then, collect all this sweet heat from it. It's Sting's already leaving. So the Young Bucks are going to clout chase and jump on the bandwagon. This is why you should know what you're doing before you do it. If you knew that you were going to have the Young Bucks versus Sting, and that was going to be Sting's last match, you shouldn't have announced it as Sting's last match. You should have just built it up as the Young Bucks hate old guys, had them beating up on Dustin, threatening to beat up Edge, maybe even harassing Christian, who's a little bit older now. And if that's going to be their thing, Jericho is another one. If that's going to be their thing, make it their thing. Much like, Randy Orton's Legend Killer. AEW is not for old guys. No country for old men, as they say, right? So if that's what you were going to do, then having the Young Bucks seem like they are the ones who got rid of Sting, and then that's something they could crow about, like we founded AEW, it wouldn't exist without us, yada, yada, yada. They could also say, we were the guys who got rid of Sting. We retired Sting. Sting's never going to have another match. And, AEW is going to go back to what it was supposed to be and, what we envisioned for it, yada, yada, yada. That would have been great. But this is not terrible character stuff. They look like shit. They're clearly talking about being serious. We're taking this job more seriously. But it's done for comedy. Like when the quiet one, I think his name is Nick. He's got to be like slightly retarded. But that one, when he was like, we got to take this job more seriously. It looked like he wanted to burst out laughing right afterwards. Like it didn't seem like this guy was literally taking his job seriously. It looked like he was joking. And then the way Matt was cutting his promo was awful. He has no inflection in his voice. For some odd reason, I don't believe it. Like, I know everything that he said has some factual basis to it, but I don't believe it. And then, they finally get to this part where they're talking about changing the world and everything. Okay, that's actually sensible. That's actually sensible. So Bullet Club Gold defeated the Mogul Embassy to win the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team championships. Wow. The prestigious Ring of Honor 6-man tag team championships. Jay White. Oh, brother. Mogul Embassy. I mean, how about it? How about it? Anyway, the Acclaimed come out to look at Bullet Club Gold. Was that a congratulations? I'm not sure what it was. Then it cut to Adam Cole, who says that Wardlow will be unbeatable. He's going to run over his opponents until no one is left, and he's going to win the world championship. And it's going to belong to the Undisputed Kingdom. And Wardlow said, boom. Oh, count your fucking days, Wardlow. This was a really good Adam Cole promo, though. It was believable. It had fire to it. It's almost like he was good at managing. Okay, okie dokie. Timeless Tony Storm came out to do commentary for Deonna Purrazzo versus Anna Jay. I did not care about this at all. Deonna Purrazzo wins with Venus DeMilo. After the match, Renee and Deonna get in the ring. They have a promo. Deonna's kind of winded. I hate the post-match promo. I know they're supposed to add some level of realism to it, but when people are just breathing heavy into a mic, it's like, stop it. We can do this later. Can we give them 10 minutes to catch their breath? Anyway, Deonna says that they used to be like sisters, her and Toni Storm, and they both have changed. And Toni Storm has never actually met the Virtuosa. So Toni Storm, she climbs up on the announce desk. Luther then puts his head between her legs and carries her centaur style, to which she yells at Deonna that she's an artificially tanned hag. Huge pop for me. Then she said she's gonna sock her in her maw or something like that. And then she threw her shoe. Watch for the shoe, darling. And she launched that shoe. And then I think Deonna grabbed the shoe and threw it back. That was a good segment. Deonna throwing shoes. I mean, Deonna and Tony throwing shoes at each other is fun. I don't know why they're rushing Deonna into the top spot, because this is how you almost immediately end up at the bottom of the toy bin. Because you come in, they give you the huge push right out of the gate, and then you end up at the bottom of the toy bin as they bring in the next person. So Deonna just feels like she's going to be on Ring of Honor and Rampage after Revolution, So it's unfortunate. I didn't know they was going to book an ambulance match, but apparently they did. Private Party versus Top Flight, and I was just waiting for somebody to die. Grateful that nobody did. Private Party won the match because they cheated. I don't care. But they're turning Private Party heel, apparently. That's fine. The main event of the evening, Samoa Joe versus Hook. Now, let's talk about this, because this match was really good. It was definitely the best Hook match I've ever seen. And a lot of that has to do with the brutality Samoa Joe added to it, especially when we got to the Uranagi on the announce desk. Now, in the early part of the match, when Hook is firing off on Joe with his overhand punches and all this kind of stuff, I was like, Hook looks like a little kid. He literally looks like a child trying to fight Samoa Joe. It was not believable at all, and I was like, I don't know. Then he hit him with that Uranagi on the announce desk. It sounded nasty. It looked nasty. And then I was like, okay, this match might actually feel a little bit more legit. Samoa Joe saunters around the ring to kind of soak in the reaction, which is a real pro move. He comes back, and Hook almost completely buries the spot by flipping off Samoa Joe. So we know that you could dump him on his neck through a table and he's perfectly fine. He gets in, he's then powerbombed on the ring apron. And we're like, oh shit, man, that's kind of crazy. At this point, Taz is mildly uncomfortable on commentary and took his headset off. Hook gets in the ring, gets a muscle buster. He kicks out at 1. Now, this is where the crowd really starts getting into it. Because now there's like, a huge hope spot coming. Hook begins a really nice comeback at this point. I actually enjoyed it. And then he tries to hook Red Rum. Unfortunately, Samoa Joe is built like a pit bull. And he doesn't have a neck. It's just shoulders and jaw. So there's just nothing to choke. There's nothing to grab. And then you have Hook, who is small. How is he going to get his small little boy hands around the neck of Samoa Joe? How is that going to work? It didn't work. And then Samoa Joe put his big meaty mitts around the throat of Hook and choked him out. And Hook loses, which of course we knew he was going to lose. But they made it somewhat dramatic. I will give them credit for that. This was a well-booked affair. After the match, Hook yells at Samoa Joe, "Is that all you got?" And he gets another muscle buster for running his mouth. At this point, Taz is on commentary. He's still talking. Hangman then runs out there to save Hook as Hook was getting up to yell at Samoa Joe again. Samoa Joe flees from Hangman. Hangman, Swerve, all of them are out there looking at each other. Then the show goes off the air. Okay. I have a couple of critiques here. This match made Hook look great. Unfortunately, Hook is not the guy I probably would have done this match with. Having a guy kick out of the muscle buster at 1, why would that be one of the skinniest guys on the roster? That's something you do with a Wardlow. That's something you do with Powerhouse Hobbs. That's something you do with, a guy who's bigger. I think that having the Uranagi through the table, the powerbomb on the ring apron, all this kind of stuff, and Hook powers through it. It takes me out of the match. The point of this thing is that Hook is an underdog, and you giving him these Superman spots, it really doesn't. It doesn't connect. It doesn't jive. But my biggest issue is Taz. That's my biggest issue. This is your fucking son. Taz needs to. He is too detached from this situation. I get it that this is a grown man here, and we've been telling people all this time that he handles his own affairs. How much more realistic would it have been if Samoa Joe had walked around the ring and Hook is still laying there on the floor and Joe's about to grab him? It looked nasty, it sounded nasty, and Taz is at least standing in the way, yelling at Joe. After the powerbomb on the ring apron, he's staring at, maybe he just takes his headset off and he just stands on the ring apron and he's, come on, telling his son to come on, and that powers Hook up. That's the reason why he was able to kick out at 1, is because his old man is out there yelling at him, get up! Keep fighting. You can do it. This is your chance. Like, this is what wrestling is, a drama. You've already told everybody Taz is Hook's daddy. This is not something that people would have been finding out in the moment. Jim Ross is more excited and more intrigued and more into matches between people he don't even know outside of this place of business than Taz is about his own fucking son. That's Taz's son. To me, AEW leaves a lot of money on the table with stuff like this. I get you want to be different. You want to be Hook, want to make Hook his own man. But he uses Taz's finish. He's walking around with Taz's belt. You're not separating him from Taz that much. It's not like when Brian Christopher and, Jerry Lawler were doing a thing out there and Jerry Lawler was pretending that Brian Christopher wasn't his son. This is, everybody knows Hook is Taz's son. Everybody knows this. Your son is wrestling for the world title and has a legitimate chance to win. I know Taz would be more animated over a baseball game than watching his own son wrestle for the world title. That pissed me off so bad. I don't know why. But I'm just sitting here like, man, this one thing this match is missing is right there at ringside. You missing a Jim Ross kind of, emotional dump into this match. And Taz is right there. He's the fucking kid's dad. He doesn't even need to be on the mic trying to commentate. He should be at ringside, pounding the apron. This is your son's opportunity to be the world champion. And I just feel like they whiffed it. But that outside of that element, this match was really good. I still wouldn't have had Hook kick out of anything at 1. So this match would have been a lot shorter if I'd have booked it. Also, I probably wouldn't have did the Uranagi through the table spot because I would have saved that for another opponent. I don't mind Hook having a big comeback. I think as a babyface, you should have a big comeback, and it should lead to you getting cut off. And that is what leads to the finish. The cutoff here is that Hook is too tiny to grab Samoa Joe by the neck. Because I don't remember Samoa Joe doing anything cheap, like, raking the eyes, kicking him in the nuts, or anything like that to escape a move or forcing Hook to make a mistake. It was Hook went for his usual finish, but Samoa Joe is not built like an average human being, and Hook is not big like an average human male, and all of this stuff is not going to work out. But otherwise, I guess just as a performance, it was good. It was good. I do think the false finish was pretty good. The unfortunate thing here is I don't see how you move Hook upwards from this. He just kicked out of Samoa Joe's finish at 1. That should make him a legitimate contender for pretty much any title, right? Is that actually going to matter? Probably not. Good match, just probably a little overbooked and not enough drama. AEW always sacrifices drama for action. That's their thing. When drama is what keeps people engaged. I hate to break it to you, but the fire and explosions, that's nice and all, but people remember emotional moments. If you weren't going to have Taz at ringside, banging the apron, telling his son to come on, at the very least, he should have been in the ring, trying to help his son to his feet, telling him how much he's proud of him, giving him a hug, rubbing his head, all this kind of stuff. Taz is on commentary like, this match is over. I'm very, very proud of my son. I'm like, yeah, that's great. You're still so far away. I know for goddamn sure if my son's about to be a world champion, I'm into it. Like, you've seen these, and I'm telling you, it bothers me so much because when you see parents at like kids' little league games, or what I think it was recently in the NFL playoffs, like somebody's mom was watching and she like broke her glasses in half. Like people get really into it, and the NFL made sure that you saw that. Like when Taylor Swift and they keep putting the camera on her, they're building up the drama. Why is AEW missing these opportunities when the big story is sitting right fucking there for something you can build off of? Especially if you want to do something with the kid. All right, let's get into this Deonna Purrazzo thing. What happened? All right, let's go back to Collision. January the 13th, 2023. Oh, sorry, 2024. I forgot what year it is. Deonna Purrazzo makes her Collision debut versus Red Velvet. The match was a Deonna Purrazzo match. It was solid. It wasn't terrible. But the responses that people got from it were quite interesting. An account on Twitter says, quote, AEW's Instagram page gets comments from some of the worst people on the internet. AEW had to limit comments under Deonna Purrazzo versus Red Velvet's post because of all the body shaming comments. Here are 3 from 3 parents with a gross emoji. One of them says, Deanna built like the penguin from Batman Returns. Deanna Purrazzo needs to borrow some of Nia Jax's outfits. They got to get her to tighten up. WWE would never. Now, because I was like, ooh, I was very interested. I was extremely interested in how far this went. I went to take a look, I got to tell you, it got interesting real quickly. First, I started with the YouTube channel. I found this series of comments from YouTube. Red Velvet has the full package and looks like a guaranteed, Garunted, future superstar if she wasn't with AEW. Purrazzo looks like she ate all the Red Velvet. Deanna Purrazzo, big woman, tough and strong. Good signing by AWE. Has she always been that thick? I'm not saying she is fat by any means. I just haven't watched Impact in ages. And I thought Deanna was pretty small and petite. Am I misremembering? Someone looks a bit bottom heavy. Deanna is great, but her gear doesn't suit her at all. Missing a brand deal for Ozempic. 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 How this talent void keeps getting opportunities while doing nothing to improve or get in shape is beyond me. Dorita Pizza Dough here to raid the buffet. Purrazzo is interesting. Not great, not bad. Never, if great shape, but good enough. He submission definitely the best in women's wrestling. Hopefully she'll be used properly. Wow. She looks a bit fluffy. Yes, I am being not very 2024, but I said it. Not being very 2024. Purrazzo is a right Oompa Loompa. Purrazzo needs to stop eating so many burgers. They let pregnant women wrestle? Her name is the Curvitosa, not the Virtuosa. Why is Deanna so out of shape? She almost looks like Eddie Kingston. She's a wrestler, right? Why doesn't she lose the gut she has or just cover it up? Wow. Goodness gracious. That was some of the comments for Deanna Purrazzo. So Deanna Purrazzo sees the tweet that I read earlier, and then she responded by saying, "Oh, I've seen it. I had a cry. Then I realized my worth is not determined by 1, my body, 2, others' perception of me. I am a 5-time world champion. I have worked with nearly every major company in the world. I am one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. Furthermore, I just earned my bachelor's degree. I am looking to start a master's program. And more importantly, I have a husband who thinks I am beautiful whether I am a size S or M or S. I've never ever been a size S. They are entitled to their opinion, and I'm entitled to tell them to kiss this fat ass." Then she came back and says, "I tweeted because I thought it was important to let it be known that we, all of us, see the negative comments and tweets, and it does affect us. We are humans too. Also because it's important to show other women and girls that their value is not defined by their body, rather their hearts, minds, and successes. I've never expected this outpouring of love, and now I'm crying happy, touched, overwhelmed tears. This is the best side of the community. I'm choosing to be grateful tonight. Thank you." So there was a large outpouring of positive energy being thrust upon Deanna Purrazzo. Mostly people saying that she was beautiful. She was one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. And the body shaming argument, I think it's fair. I mean, AEW fans being, and these are probably AEW fans, being brutal to Deanna Purrazzo. They're no different than to Eddie Kingston. You know, Eddie Kingston gets this kind of stuff all the time. There have been plenty of, I don't want to say there were plenty of situations exactly the same, where people have had to get chastised for calling Eddie Kingston fat. But it's happened. It's happened more times than most people are willing to admit. And here's the thing: I don't even think Deonna Purrazzo is fat. Fat hangs. All right, that's the thing. When you're fat, it's hanging. Like when we talking about Eddie Kingston, like when he takes down the straps and he just turns into Barney from The Simpsons, like it's like oof. Like it's one thing to be, a stocky big guy. There's stocky big guys all over the place. Vader and Bam Bam Bigelow, big dudes who are not exactly chiseled out of stone, but you don't see everything just dangling off of them. Like their arms are not like flabby and, flappy and stuff like that. They look strong. They look tough. You could see a guy and be like, man, he's a bad motherfucker, he might not be ripped to shreds, but he looks pretty tough. And then you see, dad bod guys, and you're like, wait a minute. I don't know. What's up with that? And I don't think Deonna Purrazzo even fits dad bod status. I genuinely don't get the hate for Deonna Purrazzo's body. No, she's not skinny, but she's not like the chunkiest, fattest woman I've ever seen. And the interesting bit is that once this thing hit the net, we started getting some of the AEW fans, because of course they get real defensive. They started really talking about like Nia Jax and Piper Niven and how, those are not small women either. They're much bigger than Deonna Purrazzo. They are generally what you would call fat. Now, I think maybe both of them have gotten a lot. Nia Jax got a lot of hate for her body type. Man. Didn't Cornette say it was like trying to wrestle a refrigerator or something like that? Or, it was like there's a lot of mean stuff being said about big women. Deonna she got quite a few. I think this is like the second or third time we've had to go through this with Deonna Purrazzo. But it happens. Charlotte gets the whole thing with the surgeries. People speaking on your body in a business that is about bodies, if we're being honest. People are looking at, your performance. As long as it doesn't really affect your performance, I really don't see the problem. And again, like I said, fat hangs. Fat dangles. It flops. It's flabby. Look, it's not perfect, when we talk about Deonna Purrazzo's physique. But it certainly ain't the worst I've seen. When it comes to being, I guess you could say, bullied for being fat, Eddie Kingston far more deserves it than Deonna Purrazzo. Deonna doesn't really deserve it. I mean, she wears fully covered gear, wears pants, and I know her tops usually have her, stomach kind of poking out. But of all the women who've been body shamed, Deonna doesn't really deserve it. Taya Valkyrie didn't really deserve it either. I mean, when it comes to, like, again, fat hangs a lot more. Nia Jax is fat. Piper Niven is fat. Awesome Kong is fat. They're just out of shape. They just don't have shape. I wouldn't call them fat per se. They could certainly be better. They could also certainly be worse. Thank you for your time. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap.